When Elena opened her grandmother's safety deposit box, she found a deed to land she'd never heard of and a birth certificate that didn't belong to anyone she knew. "I'm Elena." And what started as a routine trip to the bank after my grandmother's funeral turned into a 6-month odyssey across borders, languages, and family histories I never knew existed. My grandmother, Lydia Petrova, was born in Sofia, Bulgaria, but moved to Toronto in 1972 with my mother when she was just 5. She rarely spoke about her life before Canada. When she did, it was in fragments: winters so cold the ink froze in pens, bread rationing, neighbors who vanished overnight. She built a quiet life here, a small flower shop on Danforth Avenue, Sunday stews simmering for hours, and strict rules about never borrowing money or trusting banks too much. But she always kept that safety deposit box at TD Bank on Queen Street East. Said it held the only thing worth fighting for. I assumed it was jewelry. Maybe old photos. Not this. The deed was for a plot of land in Plovdiv, Bulgaria's second-largest city, dated 1968. The property included a 2-story stone house with a fig tree in the courtyard, according to the notary stamp. And then there was the birth certificate. Issued by the Plovdiv Civil Registry in 1959. Name: Milena Stoyanova. Mother: Lydia Petrova. Father: listed as unknown. But my mother was born in 1967. And her name was Irina, not Milena. And Lydia had always said she only had one child. I sat in the bank's consultation room for nearly an hour, rereading those documents like they might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. My hands were shaking. Not from grief that had settled into a dull ache weeks ago, but from the sudden vertigo of realizing your entire family story might be a carefully constructed fiction. I called my mom that night. Her voice cracked when I read the birth certificate aloud. "That's impossible," she said. "Baba never left Sofia until 72. And she definitely didn't have another child." But the document looked official. Watermarked paper. Government seal. Even a faded fingerprint in the corner. So I booked a flight to Bulgaria. Plovdiv in late April smells like jasmine and diesel fumes. I arrived with nothing but a printout of the deed, Google Translate on my phone, and a growing knot of dread in my stomach. The address led me to a narrow cobblestone street in the old town, past Roman ruins and Ottoman-era mosques. The house was real. Stone walls, green shutters, and yes, a massive fig tree arching over the courtyard. But it wasn't empty. An elderly woman answered the door. Gray hair in a tight bun, flower on her apron, eyes sharp as flint. She spoke rapid Bulgarian. I stumbled through my rehearsed sentence: "I am Lydia Petrova's granddaughter. I believe this house belongs to me." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, in heavily accented English, "You are Irina's daughter?" I nodded. "Then you are not the heir," she said flatly. "Milena is." Her name was Desi. She introduced herself as Milena's aunt, her mother's sister. Over bitter coffee in her kitchen, she told me a story that rewrote everything I thought I knew. In 1959, Lydia gave birth to a daughter, Milena, in Plovdiv. But unmarried mothers faced brutal stigma under communist rule. Jobs disappeared. Neighbors reported you. Children could be taken by the state. So Lydia made a choice: she gave Milena to her younger sister, Stanka, to raise as her own. Officially, Stanka became the mother. Lydia remained the aunt, a frequent visitor, a loving presence, but never the legal parent. Then in 1967, Lydia had another daughter, Irina, with a man who died shortly after. This time, she kept her. And when she emigrated to Canada in 72, she took only Irina. "She never told you?" Desi asked, stirring her coffee slowly. "Your grandmother visited every summer until 1989. She brought toys, medicine, money. Milena called her Mama Lydia. But on paper, she was just an aunt." I felt sick. All those summers Baba claimed she was visiting cousins, she was seeing her firstborn. And Milena? She still lived in Plovdiv. Worked as a librarian. Had 2 sons. And according to Desi, she'd been named sole heir to the house in Lydia's Bulgarian will signed in 1995. But here's where it got legally messy. In Canada, Lydia updated her will in 2010. Left everything, including foreign assets, to me, her only grandchild. But Bulgaria doesn't automatically recognize foreign wills for real estate. Under Bulgarian inheritance law, if you own property there, local succession rules apply unless you filed a specific international declaration, which Lydia never did. So technically, both wills existed. Mine in Canada. Milena's in Bulgaria. And the house sat right in the middle. I hired a lawyer in Sofia, a no-nonsense woman named Victoria who specialized in cross-border estates. She confirmed it. Without a unified testamentary document recognized by both countries, we'd need either a family agreement or a court battle. Which meant I had to meet Milena. She agreed to meet at a cafe near the Kapana district. I was terrified. What do you say to someone whose existence rewrites your family's history? Whose very birth explains why your grandmother carried so much silence? Milena was in her early 60s, same height as my mom, same sharp cheekbones, but softer around the eyes. She wore a simple blue dress and smelled faintly of lavender soap. We sat in awkward silence for a full minute. Then she said, in careful English, "I know who you are. You look like her. Like Baba." Tears came instantly. Not because I was sad, but because in her face, I saw my grandmother's smile. The same crinkles at the corners of her eyes when she laughed. We talked for 3 hours. She showed me photos: Baba holding her as a toddler, Baba braiding her hair at 16, Baba crying at her wedding in 1983. She'd known Lydia was her mother since she was 12. Stanka told her the truth after Lydia left for Canada. She wanted to tell you, Milena said. But every time she tried, she'd say, "They're happy. They don't need this pain." And maybe she was right. 4 decades. But now, the house forced the truth into the open. Over the next few weeks, Milena and I met almost daily. We walked through the house together. She pointed out where Baba used to sit on the porch, where she hid chocolates in the pantry. I told her about Toronto, the flower shop, the way Baba hummed folk songs while watering geraniums. Slowly, the tension eased. But the legal problem remained. Victoria proposed a solution, a mutual renunciation agreement. Milena would formally waive her claim under Bulgarian law, and I'd acknowledge her moral right to part of the estate. In return, we'd co-own the house, split maintenance, share rental income if we ever leased it, and preserve it as a family space. It wasn't perfect. But it was human. Then came the final hurdle, my mother. I flew back to Toronto and sat my mom down in our sunroom, the same room where Baba used to shell peas in summer. I showed her the photos. Played Milena's voice message. Told her everything. She didn't speak for 10 minutes. Just stared out at the garden, tears rolling silently down her face. Finally, she whispered, "All these years. I thought I was enough." That broke my heart more than anything. But then she took a deep breath and said, "Call her. Tell her I want to meet." 2 months later, my mom stood in that Plovdiv courtyard for the first time. Milena hugged her so tightly I thought they'd fuse together. They cried. They laughed. They argued over who made better banitsa. And that night, the 3 of us, plus Desi and Milena's sons, sat under the fig tree, eating stuffed peppers and toasting Baba with rakia. We signed the agreement the next week. The house is still there. Milena lives in the upstairs apartment. The ground floor is rented to a ceramic artist who teaches workshops. Every summer, my mom and I fly over for 2 weeks. We clean the gutters, prune the fig tree, and sleep in the room where Milena grew up. Legally, it's co-owned. Emotionally, it's ours. Looking back, I realized the real inheritance wasn't the house. It was the truth. Messy, painful, inconvenient, but ultimately healing. Baba hid Elena to protect everyone. But secrets, especially across borders, have a way of resurfacing. Not to destroy, but to complete. If you're watching this and facing a family mystery of your own, maybe a document that doesn't add up, a relative who's never mentioned, don't ignore it. Dig gently. Ask kindly. Because sometimes, the people you think are strangers are just waiting to become family. And if this story resonated with you, consider sharing it. Someone out there might be sitting with their own safety deposit box, wondering what truth lies inside. Because in the end, inheritance isn't just about property. It's about belonging. And belonging doesn't recognize borders.